Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Leading from Alignment with our good friend who cares about us and is going to teach us today about something extraordinarily important, John Obolewski. How are you today, John?
Jim, I'm well. Having
Good.
a better day because we're doing this and we're together. Gives
Every
us an
time.
excuse to hang out
It
and
really is.
always look forward to it. I never don't look forward. That's probably bad English. Um, to recording because we get to spend time together and
Right on.
appreciate your friendship.
Right on.
And yeah, I'm better because you're in my life.
And just because it's bad English doesn't mean it ain't good preaching, brother. That's what they say down south. So right on. Good. So today, I think I say this all the time, but I find myself 30 years of being in the same chair serving the church, but man, I'm ready for this one. I feel like about 80% of the time I should be listening to the podcast, not, not talking on it. But this is another one. So give us the 411 on what we're doing today.
Sure. The title is called You and Boundaries.
Boundaries.
Uh, Last week we talked about running on empty or leading
Yeah.
on empty.
Yeah.
And what we're going to talk about today, the mismanagement of boundaries is a contributor
Absolutely.
to leading on empty. And so I think it's
Absolutely.
a good follow-up today to what we worked through last week. You know, Jim, it's no secret that many pastors and leaders are tired, not just from what they're doing, um, it's more from what they can't stop doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
somewhere along the line, the uh, the line between calling and compulsion
mm,
gets fuzzy.
hmm.
And we can embrace this false notion, Jim, that faithful ministry means being available 24/7, 365 to
Yeah.
every person, to every situation, all the time.
Yeah.
But that kind of constant availability isn't a sign of spiritual maturity. It's not a sign of devotion. It's
Yeah.
misguided devotion.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for burnout. It's a
Right.
recipe for leading on empty. And, the unspoken belief sounds good, like, people need me. I
Mm.
have to be there. The work never stops. Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of true. The work's never finished, but think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
If the work is never finished, you could work 24/7 and
Yeah.
it still wouldn't be finished
Right.
and
Right.
you'd be a mess.
Yeah.
So as a young pastor, Jim, I didn't understand this. I not only thought I needed to be accessible to everyone all the time, I foolishly believed that my role as pastor meant I needed to absorb
Yeah.
people's anger,
Yeah.
people's dysfunction, people's misguided expectations, often expressed toward me with hurtful words, angry words, demeaning words. And
Yeah.
so, um, what are your thoughts on this subject? And then we're going to just dive into some meat
Yeah.
here.
It reminds me again, I must be the day for Southern expressions, but the difference between a flowing river and a swamp is boundaries.
Mm,
Boy, I think so many ministers' lives really is just a swamp. There's, it's just things are rotting and decaying and it's just everywhere and mosquitoes and frogs and snapping
mm,
turtles. And, it really could be so much, I don't want to say cleaner or clearer, but just more focused. I think there has to
right.
be. We work better with predictable starting times and stop times. We work better by,
Yes.
it's different. If your car is just not running, that's different. You got to rebuild the engine. But man, there's that carburetor. And those of us who are old enough to remember what a carburetor was. You turn a tiny screw, one of the smallest parts of the whole car, you turn it a quarter turn. It's the difference between it running properly and not running properly. And I think when
Yeah.
we get into a routine, our lives can be tuned more like a carburetor than like the
Mm,
broken engine that needs to be completely rebuilt every day over and over and over again. So
sure.
routines with boundaries and boundaries with people, boundaries with time, boundaries with money,
That's
boundaries
right.
with you need all of these or you'll be a swamp. You'll be stuck in a
Yeah.
swamp.
So here's kind of what a boundaryless life sounds
Yeah.
like. Here's things that give us
Yep.
an awareness that a leader may be struggling with boundaries. things like this. Everything feels urgent.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I felt off duty.
Mm.
Here's a really popular one. If I don't handle this, who will? And and maybe a more sobering one. We've heard this. Rest feels irresponsible.
Mm. Wow. Wow.
And behind the spiritual language, Jim, of serving others can be this unspoken fear that if and I wonder how much this really contributes to the lack of boundaries,
Yeah.
that if I stop, things will fall apart.
Yeah.
Or worse, I'll stop mattering.
Mm. Yeah.
I won't be important. What do you think about just these sounds
Yeah.
of
Boy.
boundary issues?
Yeah. All those things are said just before something really bad happens. Right?
Oh, there you go.
That's what
That's
I
really
like.
true.
The people would say that it's not, you're not far from going off the tracks at that point, and you're doing it to yourself. You're believing
Yes.
a variety of things that aren't true. And again, I don't mean to become a counselor, but just because your daddy didn't love you, it doesn't mean you've got to earn somebody else's approval. Just because you didn't have
Hmm.
anything as a kid means you have to be wealthy. Just because, I mean, so many of these things come out of an unhealthy situation, and now
That's right.
ministry gives us the appearance of health, but we're,
Yes.
who are you trying to make happy here? Who are you trying to make feel
Right.
safe? Who are you trying to help? And that thought that it has to be me, boy, you got to look behind that. What's the root of that?
Yeah.
Because something that it's not true, number one. And so why are you
Right.
believing it is a good question that you should get to the root of. And maybe you need
Yeah.
some help with a counselor almost to find out why am I doing this? You look at the people that are extraordinarily wealthy and work themselves to death, often they come from poverty. Often that's
Hmm.
their, people that do have great success in the military often didn't have a male authority figure in their life. And, they're trying to prove something to their old man. I am good enough to be loved. And,
Right.
it's just, there are roots to this. So if you're finding yourself where
Yeah.
John is talking right now, you should take a walk with Jesus and see if you can't get to the reason why. Why am
Yeah.
I working myself to the place of losing my own health?
And maybe we'll get to some of that
Yeah.
even in this episode today.
Yeah.
Jim, it's really frightening that you can layer spirituality on top of this,
Yes. That's
and
dangerous.
it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not okay, but and I'm using air quotes, like
Yeah.
because we're doing it for Jesus, or
Yeah.
this. I had somebody tell me, I don't know how old I was. It was before we started Converge coaching, but not too, it was probably 5 years before we started Converge coaching, and we had already working with pastors. And
Yeah.
I heard somebody say, well, being burnout, depressed, and broke, that's just the ministry.
Oh,
That was
huh.
the mindset.
Yeah.
And I said, my dear brother,
Oh my goodness.
I categorically reject that idea because
Yeah.
it's not biblical.
Yeah.
It might be Western, it might be American,
Yeah.
um, but that's not a biblical view of leadership
Mm.
at all. And
No.
so there is this there is this over spiritualization, I think, at times that doesn't help us, Jim, when it comes to
Yeah.
the topic that we're talking about today. So, what fuels this lack of boundaries or boundary erosion in the life of a leader? I think there could be a lot of things we talk about. I think one of the fuelers of it is this unhealthy need to feel indispensable.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna swoop in and save the day.
Yeah.
Um, And that can be rooted in a lot of things, insecurity.
Sure.
Like I need to prove I'm valuable, so I'm going to take that posture, or it could be rooted in people pleasing.
Yeah.
Um, I've heard some leaders tell me, John, I can't disappoint people.
Mm.
I and here's the problem is that Jesus disappointed
Yeah.
people sometimes.
Yeah.
He didn't
Yeah.
do everything that people wanted him to do in the
Yeah.
time that they wanted him to do it in. Um, Some I've heard some leaders tell me this, and I've gotten I think I'm getting old and crotchety now. I just fire right back in love
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
say stuff like this. But I've actually heard somebody say Jesus was always available, forgetting that Jesus, while he was here on earth in human body, often withdrew.
Yeah. Yeah. From the
You know,
crowds.
think
Yeah.
about it. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no phones.
Yeah.
There's how do you nighttime, there's no light except for a
No.
fire or whatever,
Yeah.
and so when a leader loses boundaries, there's this, I think there's conceptually there's some problems. Philosophically, there's some things we
Yeah.
got to get to the bottom of. Um, but here's what happens when I lead with no boundaries. I start serving, instead of serving out of overflow, we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
I strive out of emptiness.
Yeah.
And the result is fatigue, resentment, relationship strain, and eventually, listen, this is really, I think this is important, disconnection from God and disconnection from myself.
Yeah.
I become some version of what God never intended me to become.
Yeah.
So, Jim, what do you think about that? I'd love to hear your feedback on this
Well,
part.
that's the danger, right? God's grace will not be on my imitation of somebody else's life or what
Hmm.
I've erroneously believed is success. His grace will be absent. So, you've heard the statement where they put the corporate ladder against the building, they climbed to the top rung, and when they got there, there was no there there. I I
That's
I
right.
mean, that's true in ministry too, not just in if we succeed of a plan that is not God's plan, what we're looking for as we climb that ladder so aggressively, it's not there. It is only
Yeah.
in finding who God made you to be, being that for his glory, and then finishing your race, fighting your fight, keeping the faith. That's life. That's what life should be. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're coaching leaders in this particular area, Jim, our goal with them is not just new time management techniques, although,
Yes.
we can talk about that.
Yeah.
I always think about things like this, that it's two layers, Jim. There's a system problem and then there's a DNA problem.
Yeah.
There's a root issue. So we start with the root stuff
Yeah.
because we know that if we give them a great system, but they're still insecure, people
Yeah.
pleasing, um, you know, trying to fill some sort of deficit created by family of origin,
Yeah.
that it doesn't matter which system we throw at them, it's not going to help.
No.
So here's some of the things that we help them with. First of all, we do some root cause. Like,
Yeah.
what's driving this in your life?
Yeah. Good question.
That is where I think a coach or a counselor is incredibly helpful,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they have this ability to be compassionate, but disconnected enough from the real world that you live in to just see stuff that you don't see.
Yeah.
And it's always an amazing moment in coaching. It's a holy moment where there is this aha,
Yeah.
like, okay, I think my schedule is my problem. I've been thinking my schedule is my problem. That's
Yeah.
not my problem. My problem is that I'm getting my identity from work and not from my adoption as a son or a
Yeah.
daughter.
Right. Right. That's huge.
And
Yeah.
and and so and when that happens in coaching, it's like holy ground.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. So, we want to drive and get towards some of the root cause of that. We help them rebuild boundaries around rest.
Yeah.
Scheduling Sabbath
Yeah.
rhythms that
Rhythms. Yep.
restore, rather than deplete. And we're um, we're kind in all of that, but when pastors push back, push back, push back, we just say, look, okay, so you're telling me that the fourth commandment is optional. Any other nine optional? And we don't mean to be
Right.
smart Alex about it,
Yeah.
but
That makes the point
it's
though. Yeah.
but it's like, come on.
Yeah.
So what we've noticed, especially with bivocational pastors or pastors who are going for a graduate degree while they're ministering and they've got
Yeah.
kids, a lot of pressure on their schedule, is we encourage them to work their way toward obeying the fourth commandment.
Yeah.
So if you can't get a full 24, go for 12.
Yeah.
Stop work at noon on Friday if you can,
Yeah.
and don't pick something back up until the next morning.
Yeah.
What is that? That's probably more than 12 hours. That's like
Yeah.
16 hours.
Yeah.
And just build some sort of small
Right.
micro Sabbath, if you want to call
Yeah.
it that,
Yeah.
into your week. And over time, that can expand to where it should be. You can
Yeah.
jump in any time here, Jim, if you want
I
to.
was going to say that the difference between sons and slaves really has a lot to do with that seventh day. You
Mhm,
know, a slave doesn't get a day off,
that's
and a
right.
son does because the father will provide for rest. So that thought that there is no provision for rest. Well, I get what you're saying. There's a certain logic to it, but you're thinking like a slave. You're not thinking like a son. And small kids don't understand Sabbath and tests are due and homework assignments and all that kind of stuff. But what we're
Right.
to say God's principles don't function in my life, so I've got a plan of my own. That's gotten us into a lot of trouble since the Garden of Eden. So let's not
Yes, it has.
let's not play that game. That if we'd have written the Bible, we'd have done a better job than the ones who did.
Right.
That's not true. God, this is a supremely wise document that's telling us how to live. And I know it's contradictory to logic. Walking on water, healing the
Sometimes it
sick,
is, yeah.
raising the dead, taking a day off, tithing. These things, it doesn't
Right.
make any sense, but they're signs of trust in the one who told us to do it. And I think that's what life is all about, is by faith. By
Right.
trust you'll live.
So we start with the root cause. We work through this idea of a regular rhythm of Sabbath, whether it's
Yeah.
a micro
Yeah.
or a full
Something.
blown,
Yeah.
something to get you rolling. And then we start on the relational side of it, the relational boundaries. And that
Yeah.
has to do with protecting time for their marriage, their family, for genuine friendship.
Yeah.
Um, it has to do, we talk about things like what's allowable for people to say to you
Yeah.
or do to you, and how to, in a loving but honest way, address verbal abuse
Yeah.
or worse from parishioners. I want to just say this. Pastor, you do no one a favor in the congregation you lead when you let them say whatever they want to say to you,
Yeah.
whenever they want to say. That is not good for that particular
No.
congregant.
No, it's not.
Not good for him or her. It's not
Yeah.
good for the body, and it's certainly not good for you. So we work
Yeah.
on how to set and enforce relational boundaries.
Yeah.
Uh, then we get into so that's all kind of like DNA stuff, I think. Those
Yeah.
first three. So we just start with
Yeah.
the internal stuff,
Yeah.
the heart behind it all. Then we get into some of the system stuff, work schedule.
Yeah.
You know, when are you on and when are you
Maybe
truly
off.
off?
Yeah.
Ministry is really kooky that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because your day just you don't punch a clock. You ministry can happen at night, it can
Yeah.
happen early
Yeah.
morning. So you have to work incredibly hard at turning work off
Yeah.
and figuring out how you do that. Some of that is just by defining parameters. So, a good friend of ours who pastored a wonderful church uh, in the metro area here, at some point as a lead pastor, he came to this conclusion: I'm turning my cell phone off at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
He made that decision. I don't know. Probably he was 5 years into his lead pastor run.
Yeah.
And do you know that by the time he was finished there, which was, I think, 8 years later,
Yeah.
and then he went on to elected office, not one family. that he knew
Yeah.
left the church because he wasn't picking up his phone after 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Now, did he put some structure in place to deal with emergencies? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going to need that, right? That's a
Yeah.
system issue. But I mean, he got this work schedule thing, but he also this other piece is accessibility. We talked to pastors about, coach them around, is that this learning that being constantly available isn't the same thing as being faithful. God didn't call
Hmm.
you to be constantly available. He called
Right.
you to be faithful.
Yeah.
And so saying no is, we want to encourage leaders to learn how to say a proper no and see that as an act of stewardship,
Yeah.
not selfishness.
Yeah.
See,
You
healthy
know,
boundaries aren't, go ahead, Jim. Let me just
I
say
was
this
going to
and
say,
go
like,
ahead.
on my cell phone, the voicemail says, um, sorry, I missed your call. I check my voicemails at 11:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. every day. I turn my phone off on daily at 7 o'clock, and I won't return for my day off is Friday. And just in doing that, there's an expectation that I'm not going to get. I'm not waiting. I called him 10 minutes ago. He still hasn't called me back. He won't even check the message until 11:30.
So,
He won't
so
even check
good.
the message till 4:30. And after 7 o'clock, I'm waiting till the next day. So I
Yeah.
think even that, and so I was saying, hey, leave your message. I'm looking forward to talking to you real soon. Like, don't create again. There's an expectation. There's a boundary created just in the way you leave your voicemail recording for those who call you. That
No,
that that lets them
that's
know
really
I
true.
have boundaries set up. And people will by and large respect those. And again, if there's an emergency, emergencies don't happen every day, and maybe that's why God
Yeah.
created small group ministry anyway. Because if you can't get a
Yeah.
hold of me, there's hundreds of people in this person's church we're talking about. The odds of him even knowing who they were at times was
Sure.
remote, or who the person was with the emergency. But if you're in a small group, everybody's got everybody's phone number, everybody knows everybody, and you're not without ministry if you need ministry.
So 16 years of pastoral ministry in the confines of a local church, three genuine
Right,
emergencies,
right.
like life, death,
Yeah,
critical. Three.
three. Yeah,
In 16 years, they say, well, John, you pastored a church of 5 people, right? No,
no,
no, we had a youth ministry of, I don't know, there's probably a couple hundred kids in that youth ministry.
yeah,
And we
sure.
had in the 6 years I did that, there was one legitimate life or
Yeah,
death, and which ended
yeah,
up in death,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah,
Emergency.
yeah.
Listen, healthy boundaries aren't barriers, they're guardrails
Right,
that keep our calling sustainable.
right. That's
So,
good.
with that being said, let's go through real quick here, Jim, 5 practical next
Okay.
steps. If you're
Yeah.
boundary challenged, um, and listen, I have to work on this pretty much all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Everybody
not
will.
just like
Yeah.
I set this at in the middle and it just stays there.
Yeah.
I I have to work on this.
Yeah.
Here's the first one. Clarify your lane. What are your core responsibilities? Pastor, what are your core responsibilities?
Yeah.
And if you can't fire that off like quickly, take some time and focus on what are my primary responsibilities
Yeah.
and I'm talking to lead pastors right now, but all pastors. What are my primary responsibilities? How much of your work week focuses on that core?
Yeah.
And if a certain task is not part of your calling or assignment, sometimes we do that, right? Like that's just part of it.
Yeah.
Not everything I do every week is core.
Right.
But here's the issue. It might be that task might be a candidate for delegation.
Yeah.
It might be, this is just something I got to do, or it might be something to say I just say no to.
Right.
Now, every role has tasks that aren't in your lane. I want to make that abundantly clear. That's just the real world. But if most of your tasks are out of your lane, are out of your core, I think you're setting yourself up for boundary issues. So, what do you think about
Yeah.
this first one, Jim?
Yeah. I again, this sounds so simple where it gets difficult is when the phone rings and somebody wants something, somebody needs something, somebody, and
Mm,
now you are in the position of saying, what you don't want to say. You have to say no, or you make the exception to the rule. So I think this is why creating not just clear boundaries, but known boundaries with your people, like the voicemail
hmm.
thing, or like, a sermon illustration. For example, I don't have appointments. I have one evening a week that I have appointments because I have a family. That sort of statement
There
from the
you go.
pulpit creates a healthy culture, a healthy expectation, and a healthy boundary.
Yeah, and by the way, that's good for your people, right?
Yes, it is. Yes,
You're
it
you're
is.
leading, you're modeling
Yes.
rhythms that
Yes.
will benefit their life, their
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
when you lead that way. So yeah, clarify your lanes. We talked about this already, so I just touch on it. Set a stop time.
Yeah. It's good.
Decide when your ministry day ends and honor that.
Yeah.
Now, the world's not going to fall apart if you don't answer a text at 9:30 at night.
Yeah.
I didn't get texts because we didn't have cell phones back
Right.
back in the day when I was
Yeah. We,
doing
we bang rocks together in Morse code, Yeah.
that's smoke signals. That's how
That's
we
right.
communicate. Um, but unless it's a genuine emergency, and I guess you'll have to define what that is
Yeah.
in your own context, things can wait till the next day.
Yes, they can.
Most stuff can wait.
Yeah.
Thirdly, schedule rest before you get into crisis.
Hmm.
Don't wait until you're burned out to rest because when you're burned out, you're going to be resting a lot longer than you ever hoped and imagined.
Yes. Yeah.
Plan some recovery time. I think we talked about this either in this pod or the last pod. Don't stack meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. Give yourself
Yeah.
some space. I think we talked
Yeah.
about this last time,
Yeah.
last week, in between. It's just essential
Yeah.
to your healthy effectiveness. And here's another one. Name your yeses and nos.
Yeah.
Jim, you said something, and you say that many times, and it still rings true. I think I'm going to try to say what you say, and then
Okay.
you tell me if I get it right. When I say yes to something, I begin the war of a thousand no's,
The War
something
of a
like that.
Thousand No's. Yeah.
Is that
The War of
right?
a Thousand No's. Yeah. Yeah.
And so every time I say yes, it costs something.
Yeah.
So learning to say no, and I'm at the stage in my life where I'm saying no more to good things
Yeah.
than I am to like I
Yeah.
always used to think I'm just going to say no to bad stuff.
Right. Right.
Well, yeah, we should say no to bad stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm having to say no to good stuff now.
Right.
And it's allowing me when I do that, Jim, it's allowing me to say yes, not to just good things or great things. It's allowing me to say yes to the right
The
things.
right things. Yeah.
So, what do you think about this one? I'd love to
Yeah,
hear your
well, I mean,
thoughts.
you're at a different stage of life where
It's
there are
true.
more demands to have you in the room to talk about things. But Converge is not a public speaking ministry. There's a lot that goes on in leadership. Your role is to lead Converge, not to promote Converge or to be a speaker at this point. So if you were to say yes to all the invitations to go and minister places, you'd have to say no to Converge to some degree. When the Lord said you're supposed to say yes to Converge, and
Mhm.
occasionally you get to say yes to other things that complement it, but
Yeah.
we'd lose the foundation of Converge if we lost you as a speaker. You'd be representing an organization that no longer existed
Mm,
after a while,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then let me give you one more thought here, Jim, and
Yep.
that's just to invite some accountability
Yeah,
into your
that's
life
huge.
as it relates to boundaries. Ask a trusted friend, your spouse,
Yeah.
maybe even a coach to help you protect your limits and give
Yeah.
them permission to call you out when those boundaries start to blur.
Yeah.
Um, you know, what we talk about today might seem limiting to our listeners and watchers in some way, shape, or form, but I don't believe that boundaries limit our calling. I think they protect it.
Yeah.
If the Son of God could disappoint people to stay aligned with his Father's will, so can we.
Yeah.
So, Jim, that's what I I've got today.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember many podcasts ago, we had Josh Spurlock on, and he was talking about a dynamic, and I questioned it, saying, "But what about when people are disappointed?" He said, "Oh yeah, Jesus never disappointed anyone." And I realized how silly what I had just said was by the way he said it and the look on his face. I never forgot
Yeah,
it. I thought, yeah, that's absolutely true. His really a lot of what he did was really amazing people and disappointing them because it wasn't they were following him for the wrong reasons, and he had to refine that through
right.
various disappointments. And I like that. So well, I hope and we hope that this has been helpful to those of you that watched and listened. We hope that you will sit down soon and write out a list, as he's saying, with a trusted friend, a spouse, a coach, a mentor, a tormentor, and say, I don't, I'm a swamp. I need to be a river. Where do the banks belong? And remember this, once you set those boundaries, those boundaries are your servants. They're not your master. They're your
That's
servants.
right.
So you can
That's good.
constrict them, you can expand them as you discover. You can tweak that carburetor screw a quarter inch one way or the other. You'll be able to tune it. But until there's banks, there's nothing to tune. So you have to create start times, stop times, what you'll say yes to, what you'll say no to, who you delegate these things to if you're not the right person to do it. And don't think that by disappointing somebody, you're failing the Lord. The Lord himself disappointed people on a regular basis. It's part of obedience is overcoming that fear of man,
Right.
that desire to always
And
be on. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't think Jesus woke up every morning on purpose saying, I'm going to disappoint people today on
Yeah.
purpose.
No, no, no.
But he just he was
Yeah.
so clear
Yes.
about his mission
Yeah.
and what he was supposed to do and say. He had absolute clarity
Yeah.
on that. And he lived this beautiful life.
Yeah.
Um, and so, Pastor, whenever you get confused about this particular subject, read the Gospels.
Yeah. It's good.
And you'll see how Jesus operated, and you'll
And
he's our best example.
and remember, as you read the Gospels, when he goes from Capernaum to Jerusalem, that's a 3 day walk.
Yeah,
That way, he didn't get in his car, and 10 minutes later, he was somewhere else. I mean, he and his friends went for a long walk with fresh air, sunshine, organic food, exercise. So by the time he got there, yeah, of course his soul was refreshed. So
yeah,
there is a rhythm of Jesus that is I would say far more effective, but not nearly as aggressive as our pace. Find that and tune it until you
that's
got it
right.
right. And remember, your master is Jesus, not your people. You're their servant. That doesn't make them your master. Don't get confused or you'll be in trouble. So God bless you, our watchers and listeners. We're going to continue to close because you know what I mean? That's what pastors do. You know what it means when a pastor says in conclusion? Absolutely nothing. And we've proven it here again today. But we're praying for you. ConvergeCoach.com. We're a click away. And we hope that you'll just
Mm,
continue to serve faithfully with boundaries as you
yeah.
lead from a life.